Hi everyone, my name is Shan. You can call me Shan He. I'm a senior data visualization engineer at Uber. And then I want to say that the visualization I'm presenting today is very different from what JD has just presented. Funny story is because at Uber we do a lot of geospatial data, so I will have to draw a lot of maps, and then maps are my favorite. So today you are in for a good treat of a lot of beautiful maps. A little bit about myself. My major was in architecture. Not software architecture, but actually building architecture. So my background is in design, if you can say that. And then because I have an architecture background, I'm really into built environment, urban context. So that's why I'm super interested in drawing maps. Just with my paint and with my code, I can show something like with data, but also very relevant to our day-to-day lives. So at Uber, we are handling a lot of data every day. We are doing millions of trips. We are receiving billions of data points. And in the data visualization team, we really have to come up with some solution to take those data, turn them into meaningful visualizations, and help people better understanding our operations, our markets. So the reason I like maps, because that's a major way of how I represent or how I communicate with data, is because I feel like, as an urban study, I always wanted to say map embeds many layers of information, if you can think about it. So actually, when I first joined Uber, I was actually the very first visualization person. So when I joined, the team was just me. I joined and people don't know what I can really do. So I interviewed as a designer. Also, they hired me into the data science team. And then I was hired as a software engineer. So I have all three different kind of connection titles on my back. And then they just asked me, okay, what can you do as a data visualization person? So I was the first thing I did was that, when I first joined Uber, everyone's obsessed with numbers. People talking about millions of trips, bookings, and then everyone's looking at the number every day. And I was like, guys, there's something else you can look at. So I started by taking just one day of trips, and then I put them on a map. Okay, is there cinema time? Because can you turn the lights just a little bit? Yeah. One thing working
About to get dark.
Yeah, it's about to get dark because it's so much better to look at it in dark.
Yes.
So I take one day of trips, I draw them, just throw them on the map. Every single line on this map is drawing with just one trip. And then it's super striking to people because, first of all, it's much more engaging. You show them a map, then give them a number. Second of all, because we live in San Francisco. So when you see a map like this, it immediately becomes intimate to you. You want to know more, you want to staring at it, you want to find your home address on this map and see how many cars are actually passing through. So this is a much more interesting way of telling the story, instead of just numbers. So people love it, and the city team is starting every day just to, tell people, hey, we're covering every street in San Francisco right now. So it's a nice story to tell, and it's exciting. So I went on and started drawing all of these. This is New York. This is Mexico City. Actually, this is one of my favorite because I'm an urban study. You can see something around here. This is the center of Mexico City, but you can, without actually seeing the map, you can kind of tell there's some mountains around here because all the roads around here kind of reflect the topo of the land. And anyone from Paris? No. This is Paris. Oh, Jerome is from Paris. Yes, the kind of look like the money diagram. And this is London. Yeah, so just one day, and then if you don't know London, it's huge, but now you can tell how many cars are actually driving on the road. And then again, because our eye is really loved to see things moving around, so I add a time dimension to all my maps. Instead of just drawing them on a static image, I started animating them, just playing back one day of event, and then this is just I love staring at it. So I mean, I'm pretty sure people you like to look at it too. No, this is just what I want to say, because with data and with your technique in visualization, you can create something really gorgeous and then beautiful for people, and then everyone who look at it want to learn more about what is actually in it. So as you can see now, the visualization team makes a lot of maps. I just keep on playing. This is, yeah, I will talk about that later. It's a good introduction. So he was asking me what I built this for. But, and this is also my favorite because you can see this like NASA image of the dark night of the Earth, where the city just light up with all the street lights. So this is my version of it. Instead of street light, every single point is just one person open up the app. So you can. It's really. That's the thing I try to say that over and over again, even to people at Uber, is that don't always talk about numbers. Really trying to find a way to represent it so that it becomes much more physically intimate to your viewer. This is interesting one. I actually grabbed the data set from SF.org. This is 188,832 street trees in San Francisco. And then I draw like an aggregate, I kind of aggregate them so they kind of aggregate based on themselves. Actually, their colors is not very visible. So here comes the thing, right? I didn't come here just to show you pretty images. I mean, that's what I do, but I actually want to extend the conversation on top of just beautiful visuals. At the end of the day, as a software engineer, what I hate the most, I mean, not the most, but I kind of feel complicated. It's when someone came to me and saying, hey, I love all the maps you did. Can I have one of them as my screensaver? I mean, maybe, I don't know. I just feel like I draw with data. So there's something inside the data I want people to see instead of just a pretty image. I draw maps every day, I create all these things, but what I really want to convey is that do you really learn something from looking at the visuals I made? So here's the thing. We create visualizations so that you can gain insights from the data. And then there's a whole process of tests and errors, and the failure goes into there, and then you have something for people to see. So sometimes this process can be really painful. In theory, if you write code, if you do design, you think this is what we do every day. We write some code, we compile it, it runs, and then you have something on your screen, right? But in reality, it's something like this. So first, 99 out of 100, you don't see anything on your screen. You open up the console, you have a 100-euro message. And then you have to go through it one time to just try it out. And once you finally get the something showing up, you have no idea what you're looking at. So that's why design meaningful visualization really requires a lot of trial and error. And then a usual process is you draw a sketch, you do a mock-up, you build a prototype, and then in the end, you end up with a product. And then sometimes you got into this infinite loop where you always have to go back to your sketches, change your idea, build something else, and test it whether it works. So one of the examples I want to show of this trial and error example is that I made a visualization with Uber Pool. I take Uber Pool data, and then I take 1 day of Uber Pool data on the right. I kind of simulated if those people didn't take Uber Pool, they write separately, what would it be like? And then the hypothesis I want to prove is that, it's kind of obvious with Uber Pool, you have less cars on the road. And I try to make some visuals that can communicate this message. So I ended up starting just, something I usually like to play. The first thing I tried is that, so yeah, this is the hypothesis I tried to prove. So first thing I tried is I like drawing lines. So I make all the trips started to moving around, and then I just brutally draw them on the map. And the result is not very good. Like I don't see any difference. The reason being I'm using the same color, and even though things are, you have animation, but they all kind of overlap on top of each other. So on both sides, it doesn't see much difference. So my second try is I instead of drawing lines, I started drawing points, and I take all the individual GPS points of the trip, and then put them on a map as like a point map. But also, I don't see any difference. And what's even interesting is that if you can tell, kind of on this side of the map, it seems that you have more points than you have on this side. But that's kind of contradict to what actually happens. The reason being that, if a Uber pool trip have to pick up two person, they kind of have to box around a little bit. Instead of if people ride separately, the trips are much more simple. So on the other side where the lines I kind of have to go around, you kind of ended up with more coverage, but doesn't necessarily mean you have more traffic. So this also doesn't work. Then in my third try, I go back to the drawing board. I try to think about what's the thing I can play around to get my message through. So what I tried is I tried to add more contrast to the map. So I go back, I take all the traffic data, I started to project them onto streets, and then I calculate the traffic volume on every single street segment over a 10 minutes time. And then I go back, I paint the street segments with the colors. So the yellows is showing that there are more traffic, and then the purple means there's less traffic. Once I added the colors to my maps, this becomes much more obvious. Where on the right side with Uber Pool, you have less yellows, meaning there are less congested road, and then on the left side without Uber Pool, you have more yellow because the road are more congested. And in the end, my fourth try, where I always like to play around with animations, I added motion to it. So I animated trips and colored them by traffic and compared to using separate trips. So this visual now becomes much more obvious, where you have the movement, then you also use colors to represent the actual traffic. And this becomes the end result of my trial and error, and I'm pretty happy with it. In fact, when I show it to our top economics, he was like, "It's almost too good to be true. Did you fake it?" So no, but there's the things that a data visualization designer can do is that they use all the resources they have to play around with color, with motion, and then they are still using data as their design medium. So now the hypothesis is proven. So in the end, I want to talk a little bit about the common process of making a visualization like this. Everyone starting by taking some data set, doing some kind of data processing, clean it up, write some Python code, and calculating, aggregating based on that. And then you play around with some different kind of visual encoding methods, either choosing different visualization layers, choosing colors, choosing scales, choosing size. And then you ended up with, different type of visualizations. And then you choose between them to find the ones that you think can convey your message the most. So go back to your questions. So, this whole process of making this Uber Pool visualization takes me 2 weeks of my time. I play around, I have to write Python code to clean it up. I use these three to do my animations. Sometimes I go use QGIS just to draw maps. But I don't want to spend all the 2 weeks of my time just making every single maps. Job security aside, I want to create a tool that for people who don't have coding background or for designers who have data but just want to play around with visualization techniques, they can use my tool to create stunning map visualizations. So, do I have time? Yeah. So I just talk a little bit about this tool I built. It's a web-based visualization tools, mainly for visualization to visualize geospatial data sets. In fact, a lot of the map I just showed earlier was just made with this tool. So in my words, put into your designer brain is like Photoshop for maps. So, or in this case, Figma for maps, because it's online, so it's web-based. You don't have to install anything as long as you have a browser that runs WebGL. And WebGL is built into Chrome, so you don't have to install anything. So the idea behind this is that with this tool, you can do the whole visualization process all in one tool, and it's called Kepler GL. We're actually going to open source it, so you're in luck. You can use it when we open source it in April. So we built it so that people can just do fast visual exploration of millions of geospatial data points in your browser. And then the user experience looks like this. You have some data sets, you upload to the tool, and then you can use our filters just to filter down to a smaller set of it if you need. And then you can choose between different visual layers that is more really common to visualizing geospatial data sets. And then you can also interact with what is on the map. So I don't have to run through the demos. I will go quickly over the things that you can do. You can upload the data by just drag and drop. And then you will automatically figure out you have some points in there. And you have this like Photoshop-ish panel where you can change the color, you can change the size, and it's super performative that you can. This is me rendering about 400,000 points just on the map. And then you can zoom in and zoom out very smoothly. And then you can do all the time filtering interaction. A lot of people like to do geotemporal interaction where they have a time series and then they run the time series and filter the data based on that. And then you can do some visualization where you just drag, mouse over, it's called brushing. You mouse over that map, it kind of highlights the lines that start and end around your mouse position. This is specifically useful when you want to see, the trips that starting in one part of the city, where does it go to the other parts, how the different part of the city connects. And you can also do some aggregation, like heat maps and then 3D heat maps based on density. Then you can do, filtering on all layers and then recalculating the slowing just one in the browser. And then you can add typography to it. Like I made this map by just uploading a contour data set and then color the lines by the elevation and then filter them. So with that, doing all this map takes 5 minutes of my time. I can create all this awesome map with just one data set and one tool. So it's called Kepler GL. It's been open source in April. And if you're interested in testing, go to that link. You can sign up to be our, Oh, I still have 5 minutes. But this is the end of my slide. So about us. We are a team of 30 people right now. We're very passionate about visualizing data. We're also very passionate about eating hot pot. We did this a couple of times. So if you're joining us, I'm hosting the next one in April as well. So this is it. And if you have any questions, make sure to ask.